everyone, it's Paula from Pola Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial we are working again with some curves with a little bit of addition, and this design have been in my head for quite a while, and I was trying to figure out how to do it without using any special tools and things like that, and how to make them a little bit more matching than my normal designs. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit more matching than usual. And I'm calling this design Twinkle in My Eyes. For after project comments and suggestions, stay till the end of this video. This design will be using a little bit bigger pieces, so I'm cutting my fabrics now in different shapes, as they're coming in. Most of the times I've got challenged to cut pieces into bigger sizes because what I'm using. So I'm using, shirts, clothes in general and things like that. So sometimes I don't have a big pieces. So let me just walk you through what I'm using today. So this is 10-inch square. This is actually bedding. This was a piece of African fabric I've got. This was a shirt. This shirt was actually quite big. I managed to cut 4 pieces, 10 inches. This is a bedding. And this is again African fabric. I love the colors, how nice and juicy they are, and they are here because those were my skirts, and they decided not to grow with me, so unfortunately they had to go, go on the pile to be made into the quilts now. So that's what I'm working with. So as you can see, mixture of fabrics. Most of them are recycled or repurposed for the quilts, but that's fine. This is what I like to work with. Now you may not have that type of stuff around you, so if you have maybe some fabric by meter, or maybe some bedding is quite good to cut out bigger pieces, or maybe some fat quarters, but you will need to have enough to cut at least 4 of the 10-inch squares. That's the key thing. Because we'll be pairing them up and making a nice big piece out of it. So let's get started. Okay, so in the first instance, as mentioned, you've got 4 pieces of each fabric, 10-inch squares. Now you could go a little bit smaller, that's fine. You're just gonna have a smaller eyes, so it's up to you how big you want to go. And I'm starting with the squares because that's how I had my fabric cut, but when you see the process, you can see you probably could work with some of rectangles as well straight away. So just see the tutorial to the end. You may work out a different kind of approach to it as well. And I have paired them up, so I've got something brighter and something darker together. Somewhat color coordinated, but you know me, I hope you know me, if they not have color coordinated, I wouldn't discard them either, but because I've managed to find something color coordinated, I'll be working that way. So I've got those 2 together, those like purples together, and then green blue together. Okay, so let's start. So I've got my pair, and the important first step is to lay down the pieces right way. So with this brighter one, each kind of 4 of them, they need to be laid down. The 2 pieces are going up and 2 pieces are going down. So with this brighter one, I exactly know what's left, what's right, so it's easy to do. So this is the right side, and then I'm putting 2 pieces down side, and then I will do the same thing with the other kind of color. However, as you can see with this shirt fabric, kind of isn't relevant which way they are, so I'm just going to put it under, so it's easier for me to work with those brighter ones. But if I had the right and left side on this fabric, then I would have done the same thing, 2 pieces up and 2 pieces down, and just lay them down on top of each other. The next step is going to be to do some markings. Now I will tell you what my markings are, but you, after you've made one, perhaps you would like to change that. You may like to make your eyes, taller, longer, whatever you kind of fancy. But I'm marking here from the bottom 3.5 inches ish. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, just same spot here. So I'm around 3.5 inches here, and I'm marking 4 inches on this side. Now for the next step, you want to have a possibly nice good blade in your rotary cutter, because it's 8 layers of the fabric. And what we want to do, we're going from this spot here we've marked to this spot here with nice curve. Again, if you kind of start a little bit up, or you know, below or above that mark, it doesn't matter. As far as you're cutting it the same way, it will all work. Now, small tip on this side: if you when you get to this point, if you try to have that last bit cut very straight, like as straight as possible, it will help a little bit when we start sewing together. But if you don't do that, don't worry either. Just, you know, try. So I'm starting from here. Again, like I said, it's 8 pieces of fabric, so just go slow. And if you use the fresh blade, it really helps. Okay, I've done the first cut. Okay, move it away. So now we're gonna be mixing those fabrics to make sure I can now do 2 of my colors. So that's because, again, here, you know, it's the same color both sides, so it doesn't matter. But obviously that will go into this piece, so I need 2 of those. And then again, the same piece will go on that side. It's quite a little bit tricky to show properly with the fabric, which looks the same on both sides. But basically, you want to sew bright side to dark side. So with this one's quite easily, because whichever you take off, that small one will fit. But here, obviously, you need to be careful, because you want to make sure that you will sew correct sides. You're just looking at this side really, because again, this side doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you have a right side when you're putting them on top of each other for sewing. So let's just put it correctly. That goes this way, but here I will be sewing kind of on this side, because that's my right side, so I will stitch it this way when it comes to it. So just set yourself correctly with the fabric if you have, like me, the same really pattern on both sides. Once you set yourself up, you're gonna be fine. Okay, so let's stitch it together. Okay, so as usual with curves, I am recommending going slow, and just I've adjusted my stitch length to shorter one, which is now 1/7, 1/6. And I'm starting with my brighter pieces first. So this is right side up. This one is just fitting in, because that piece will be the same both sides. So what I want to do for the first probably 2 or 3 stitches, I'm just putting them on top of each other, that the tips are in line. So there's no overlapping either way. The tip is in line. Literally just 1-2 stitches just to hold the fabric in place. And you can see now we have to start moving the fabrics, and you might need to put your foot up every now and then, just to make sure you can align them. And if something starts folding somewhere, again, lift the foot up, move your fabric, put your foot back on. Just go slowly. Okay, next one. Green is right side up. I will just take my corner. Again, I'm just putting it on top of each other, so my tips are matching, and you can see the top edge also matches here. So we are not overlapping anywhere, nothing is sticking out. Literally 2-3 stitches, and here, because I'm starting curving, I did lift my foot up to adjust the fabric. Do the best you can, but don't stress about it, because we have cut those curves. That fabric is now on bias, so it will have a little bit of give. Here, when you're stitching, obviously don't pull it or don't kind of push it. Just let the machine pull the fabric for you. You just guide it where it needs to go. But if there's a little bit of wonkiness somewhere, we can work it out with that bias. And if it doesn't work out, just cut it, you know, make some strips from it and use it for another block. Ask me how I know. Okay, now I've got my fabric, but this is the left side. and I still want to start sewing from the same edge. Normally you would go from the other side to make it easier, because maybe this is the easier way for you to stitch, but it's important to start on this design from the tip. So actually this piece will be now at the bottom, but I do the same thing. I want my edges here at the top just meet at the same point, and I will do the same thing as previously. So I do like 2-3 stitches at the top, and then I will need to move that fabric from the bottom, bring your foot up and try aligning here. So this part might be a little bit more awkward, and you may like to need to go a little bit, you know, or you may like to, or you may need to go a little bit slower. Okay, so again with this one, because this one is my right side, I will just put it on top of the tip. I'm matching my edges here, 2-3 stitches, and then I will lift my foot up just to bring that fabric a little bit closer. It's just at the very beginning you need to do that, but the rest of it is quite, you know, easy. It's just at the very beginning where it's a little bit more tricky. Okay, so I've got all of the 4 pieces of the bigger bright piece with the small darker piece done, and I will do exactly the same thing here. We've got our pieces stitched together, so now we can iron them. Let me just cut them in between. So each 4 of the same color will make one block. So I will put away one batch, and we'll just focus on one at a time. So let's go with the bright one, and I will put this one away for now. Ironing wise, whichever fabrics wants to go. We won't be matching anything later, so however, well, this one stands up so I'll just go this way, just because there's no reason at all. Just choose whichever side it likes to go and just iron that way. Now, depend on what fabric you're working with, like whether it's more flimsy or less flimsy. You may like to use a little bit of space starch. At this point of time, it just helps later when you want to, you know, square it up. So you see, because we have started all of them stitching together from the same side, and that was important part of it, they all kind of aligned here. We can still trim them if something sticks out, that's fine, but the bottom part is where we've got that kind of hanging edge which has been eaten by the curve. So we just want to have it on one end only. So you can see I'm ironing, really there's no specific direction. Whatever comes out, that's how I'm going to iron. I'll just add a little bit of starch now, because I didn't for the last 3 pieces. There you go. Not too much, I don't want to soak it. I literally want to just keep those seams here nice and sturdy for me to work next bit. Just allows the block to lie a little bit flatter. Okay, so next bit will be, let me just bring the cutting board. Okay, so you will need a big ruler because the blocks are quite big. So what I want to do now is place them one on top of each other and align them from that edge, because that's the edge we haven't touched, and it should be exactly as, you know, we cut it. So you don't have to cut, you know, all of them at the time like I'm trying to do now. You can cut, you know, one at a time, but what you want to do is find the block which got the kind of the biggest piece eaten, and go with that one first possibly, because we will be squaring it up. You want to get rid of that bit here, but starting from this edge, because we want them to be, you know, more or less the same. Like I said, if something is a little bit off, you know, don't despair, leave it as is, it's fine, but just try to make them as even as possible. So I'm trying to align this line and this line on both of the sides, because if something is sticking out here, I can square it up as well at this point. Now distance here, like I said, you need to measure it against the blocks you've made yourself, because it might be different. For me, let's see what I can do. So I want to get at you know, as much as I can, but I have to go with the smallest block, so just make sure you iron it out very well. So I think this is the smallest block here, like I cut, the angle took the most of the fabric here, so I need to go from this point here when the fabric finishes. So I'm on about, I think, 9. So this distance between here and here is 9, so I go with that, and then I'm aligning here and I'm aligning here, and I'm going to square this one and square this one. So most of the times something will stick out here. Now don't worry about the size yet, because we haven't finished yet. So let's place our pieces the way they will come later as a block. So you can see it's coming together. You see here it's not ideal, but I'm not worried about it. You know, it's once you wash your quilt, always remember, once you wash your quilt, or even a step earlier, once you quilt your quilt and then you wash your quilt, it all disappears, all of those small things, so don't worry about it. Okay, so this is how our eye will look, and now I can see that I could possibly have gone a little bit maybe lower here and a little bit higher here, but again it really depends also how we will kind of cut those pieces later, so just wait till the end. But as like I said at the beginning, you adjust it to whatever you like. So now we want to add the sparkle. So I've decided that where I've got the combination, there's a brighter bigger piece and darker smaller piece, I will add my sparkle in white, and on the opposite pair I will add my sparkle in black, but you can obviously add the sparkle in any color you like. So let me just grab some white fabrics. I found this white in my string bucket, so I can use that. If you have something narrower, by all means you can use that as well, because you can just add layers. I will make a close-up for that. And also they don't have to come from the same fabric. I had some, like, you know, any white will do. The more shades the better. So let's just take one, and what I want to do is create a sparkle in the middle. So I want to have kind of this shape here, then the longer shape here of that sparkle, and then shorter here and the longer here. Now for me, I'm getting confused sometimes with certain things, so I will just pin it how I want to sew it. So when I sew it like this and I turn it around, I'm gonna have that small triangle here white, and obviously I will square it up at the end there. So that's the piece I want to use here, so I'll just cut a little bit and I will pin it to hold it for me, so when I get to the machine I know I'm not going to mess up anything. So again, I'm not measuring anything. It can go a little bit wider, you know, less wide, it's up to you and your scraps, but it's, you know, this distance is quite short, so you don't want to go too much. Now this distance here, because now I'm going to be putting that white on this side, it's quite nice and big, or quite, you know, quite longer, so I can do something like that. So I need a longer piece here. Again, I will pin it so I don't forget which way I'm, you know, going. And that way you can kind of chain piece a lot of stuff. Once I've done that first batch, I could carry on with doing, you know, cut, sew, all the rest of the batches of the blocks, and then bring it here, iron in the 4 pieces at a time, pin the fabric, and then you go to the machine and you can chain piece again everything. So here I will go this way, And like I said, I don't mind whether if I open it up and then I've got the blue sticking out, because I will just add another strip on top of it and sew again. It really adds to the design. For me, it's adding to the design. It's not a flaw that you have to use, you know, stitch fabric on fabric. It's just adding more interest. But you know, everyone got their own preferences, so you do what you like. Now, let me just move that one. So this one needs to go this way. So when I turn the fabric, the triangle will be there. And here I can go quite longer. Let's go up to here. Quite possibly I will need to add another fabric here, which is, like I said, it's fine. Just put a pin on it. Now I can take it to the machine. I will stitch it, I will iron. If that white piece covers, you know, that edge, I can square it up against. If it doesn't, I'll just add another piece. So let's have a look how, you know, how I made here. Okay, so I stitched my white pieces on. So let's see now whether I've got enough of that width or I need to add another piece. So this one fits just about, but I will add another one. This one exactly, so that's fine. This one is ready to square up. This one needs definitely another piece. And this one I can square up. Okay, so as mentioned, I will take another piece of white fabric and I will add a small piece on top of this. Now, if your stitch would have fallen like very close to that edge, just go a little bit higher. You don't have to add fabric just on the edge here. You can go higher and you can even change the kind of angle how you're adding it. So I would be happy if I add it like this. And I'm not cutting anything under. You may like to do it if you like. I don't. Machine gun go through many layers and everything sinks in the batting later anyway, so I'm not worried about it. I've done it a few times. So again here I just need a small piece, but I will start higher again because I don't want to have a stitch just on that corner. I may go with a little bit wider here just to make sure it covers. There you go. So now I'm stitching here and I'm stitching on the other piece, and then I will be ready to square it up. Okay, pieces are back from the machine. Like I've said, if you're worried about the bulk, just cut now with the scissor on this line before you iron. Same with here, you can cut that tip out and then you will have just piece of the white. But I will leave it as is just to show you there's nothing to worry about. So that's now covered. Okay, so we will now need to obviously cut out the excess of here, so that's literally just, I'm going on the left side, and I will put a smaller ruler here and I will trim it here. If something got folded here or something, you know, didn't get the ironing very well, what I want to do, I will align against this line and this line, and then I'm just going to square the tip off. So if there's something missing in the tip, that white fabric will stick out enough for me to stitch it later. Here you go. Okay, so at this point of time we're almost ready with our eyes. What your next decision needs to be is how much of that background fabric you want to keep. Now I don't want, you know, we've started with the 10-inch square, so you will just have a square eye, and I don't want to have my eyes squares. I would like to have my eyes a little bit elongated. So I decided that I will trim my pieces to 7 inches from this side now. I don't care about what's happening there. I want to align them, so I'm starting from the eye side to the 7 inches. So let me just do that quickly. So before we were squaring up coming from this side, now I want to do it the other side. So I want to have this side with the eye on my left hand side. I mean, it depends which handed you are, because if you are left handed, I'm guessing you want to have it the other way around. But you want to align those edges here on this side now to have it nice and square. Again, you don't have to do 4 layers at the time. Once you decide what size you want to go, well, you can just do, you know, 1 at a time, really. As many layers as you feel comfortable with. So I've got my ruler and I'm going from this side, and I want 7 inches. There you go. So I've got a nice strip here left, and I will actually use it in this quilt in different places, so don't get rid of those. But your eye is now ready, and you're really sewing it as a normal 4-patch. So if I just turn this one around, this is how my eye now looks like, and it's got Twinkle in it. And that's just 4-patch to sew. So I will sew those 2 pieces together, followed by those 2 pieces together, and then I will open them up and sew the other side. So let's get it to the machine. As you can see, I'm not sure you can see it very well. That edge is little bit wavy here, but I'm not worried about it. So what I do is I'm going to align for sewing on the other side, from this side, because this corner here, we haven't touched it. So this corner is perfectly square. So I'm going to align the fabric against that side, and then I will just stitch straight with the 1/4 inch here. And if one of the fabrics on this side sticks out more than other, then the more one is the one I'm going to go against. Same here. And I'm not talking about miles here. I'm talking, thread kind of thicknesses or differences. It's not big difference, just a little bit. So go here 1/4 and then stitch them together. Let's get it to the machine. Okay, let's have a look how my Twinkle eye looks like. I haven't ironed it yet. Looks pretty cool. I think with the next one I will go a little bit more up here, but other than that it's pretty nice. So let's just quickly iron it. So I tend to just put it, with that last seam, and this one obviously goes this way, and this one will go this way. This middle seam is the only one I was nesting. All the other ones, whatever the fabric was ironed before, that's how I stitched it. So I will just iron this one here, here, to the other direction. Then I can open it up. I'm just pushing from the bottom so it goes nicely up. There's a little bit of that bulk inside here because I didn't cut out the fabric, but it's not so bad. It really isn't. And once you kind of, like I said, quilt it and wash it after the quilting, it all sinks in and it's not so visible anymore. And actually this shape gives you nice kind of ideas how to quilt. Obviously you can go around it if you do free motion, but I probably will go with just, normal foot quilting. I do like a lot of wavy, so it depends which way I set up my eye. I don't know yet. I may go, if I'm coming from this side, I will just go here around the eye maybe. If I'm coming over here, I can go around this way around the eye. I don't know. But it kind of gives you a little bit of more opportunities to do something interesting. Here you go, a Twinkle in my eye block ready. This is what I was saying, that you may try to start from the rectangle, depend how much you want to leave here. I could go lower really if I wanted to. You can customize this design to whatever you need to use them for. So you can see those blocks are coming out quite big, so I do not know yet how many I will be able to make. Probably not to make just quilt out of those. That's why I said those strips I've cut out, because they are exactly the length of the block. I can cooperate somewhere in the design with the strips from the other blocks when I will be making. So I will, you know, record a short video about how I put this quilt together, so you'll be able to see it when it's done as well. Before I show you the rest of the blocks when they are done, I just would like to point to one thing here. So because first couple of blocks I've made, they quite, you know, they came out quite even here when I was stitching that first curve to the rest of the fabric. Then I was keeping the size here 10 inches as initial fabric, and then obviously here I squared it up to whatever to just cut out those, that, you know, edging here. But as I was doing more blocks, that edge here became quite wonky. So if I have known that from the block one, then what I would have done when I was doing that first trimming, I would have obviously trimmed here because that's where, you know, it's uneven, but I would also trim here about a quarter or maybe half inch, depend, you know, how wonky that was, and I would have cut them all the same way. So maybe add that step to the process just to avoid any issues, because you may find the same thing as I did. You know, you do your first block, it's all perfect, but with the second or third there's something uneven. So you can see it better on this block that I was trying to lose that wonkiness by, you know, when I was adding the Twinkle fabric, I was then able to square it up, and the black fabric sticks out here more from under this background fabric. But you know, like I said, if I have known that would be the issue, I would just trim the top bit along with that one. Just a quarter, it didn't need anything more. Alright, so let me just show you a few more of the Twinkle in my eye blocks. So this is the first one I've shared with you. So this is, that was actually thin curtain. And this is the shirt fabric, again, because this is the darker in this design, so it's got a white Twinkle. And then the opposite of that is this red one, so it's got black Twinkle. And as you can see, I've got all of them were kind of two pieces here because I didn't make it for the whole piece. That's fine. This is one made from the Nigerian fabric, very nice and colorful. And here are my test ones, where I've used different colors of the fabrics here. And I haven't used the best fabrics to kind of put around it, so it's not so visible. I could have possibly go with a little bit something more juicy to add here, but they still look quite nice, and I will make possibly maybe nice big cushion out of it. I will trim it on here on the sides to fit the size I want, and just make a nice cushion cover, which I will show you on my Facebook group page. Thank you very much for joining me today for this tutorial. I hope it, you know, it gives your creative juices flowing, and if you have some bigger pieces of the fabric you didn't know how to use up, that may give you an idea. Experiment with the sizes, experiment with the widths of the block. That's, you know, that gives you a lot of ideas, a lot of options how you can design this block. Have a look at the description below for some tutorials and other you know, materials which might be helpful. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and see you next time.